Hey, hey, Wonderland Hero Band. So, welcome to a session that I hope will help us shift our weeks from kind of being that grinded out sort of thing to something much more, well, regenerative, I guess. But also just this feeling of prosperous, right? Which can certainly be a money thing, but also can be so much more than that. Hopefully, should be more than that. So, really excited to be back with everybody. Thank you for accommodating my adjustment. Speaking of, regenerative, getting away with my wife for like 36 hours away from the kids. Oh my God. My wife asked me if, or she told me she had something to say here just like a couple minutes ago to me, like what she was going to ask me to do something or something. And I was like, well, whatever it is, just know the only thing I care about is getting out of here tomorrow. And she's like, yeah, okay. And it did have to do with that. It was laundry stuff, so we can get the kids ready for grandma and grandpa's for a couple of days. Um, so I'm working down to, I guess, what is considered a vacation. 36 hours is kind of a sad vacation, but also it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. So with that, let's talk about regenerative weeks. And we're going to start with our icebreaker today is going to be similar to what the question that we asked when we had our daily cycle. This week we're there's music attached to that slide. Okay. We're going to talk about the kind of hard parts of our week and the fun parts of our week to break the ice today. So I'll throw it up on the screen here and Ella will put it in the chat. So these are the questions. What is the biggest struggle that you face in your week at this current moment? And yes, these things ebb and flow and change and whatnot. But if you do have one that's kind of always there, that's probably a big sign that you need some sort of life system adjustment or work system adjustment. And or you can answer both questions or just one. What is your favorite part of the week? Because that can be very telling as well. So who would like to break our ice today?
Sleep. Sleep is my biggest struggle, especially coming back from Europe.
Oh no, I thought you were going to say it was your favorite part. Bummer.
Well, it would be my favorite part if I was getting enough of it, but yeah, sleep is ever elusive. The older I get, the worse it gets, and
Really?
4 a.m. 4 a.m. seems to be the new wake up time. So yeah, sleep. Sleep is my biggest struggle that I face right now.
Was that normal as you get older for sleep to become harder? Right? I do know older people get up earlier and earlier in the day, right? Is that normal? Do you think?
I I don't know. It is for me. I don't know if it's true
Okay.
universally or not.
So you haven't
I
talked
think
to too many others about it?
no. My brother, for example, says he sleeps 8 hours a night, no problem at all. Even if he gets up in the middle of the night, he goes right back to sleep. Which
That
I get up
bastard.
in the middle of the night, I never go back to sleep. So yeah, that bastard
That
exactly.
bastard. Oh man. All
So I
right.
think it's different for different people.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I tend to go through this weird cycle, which I guess is kind of my style. It's either like really good or not very great. Seems to be my sleep cycle. Bummer. Okay. Who else wants to jump in and break some ice? Sabrina. Yeah. I see you reaching.
Um, I'll go with the other question of my favorite part of the week. My favorite part of the week is anytime, and this could be related to work. It could also be like related to passion, also sometimes both in the same things. Of when I feel like I've done something that has kind of, I don't know, even if it's not necessarily productive, it's something that has fueled the soul, whether that's writing or even doing something for a client, and I'm like, I just feel really happy in that moment. And then when I finished it, I'm like, even if it's just like for a session or whatever, I'm like, I feel really good. It makes me feel really happy. And I really hold on to those moments because sometimes I feel like they're fewer in between or something like that. Yeah.
Hmm. Soulful stuff. Like it. Well, you'll like, I think, one of my approaches to the regenerative week here as we get into it. Cool. Okay. Eleanor, Sam, which one of you would like to jump in?
Yeah, happy to. The favourite part of my week for work is when the plan comes together, where we've spoken about the idea, we've got the hypothesis, and we all know what we're doing to test it, and then it works exactly how we want it to, and it's been successful. So there's some really like joyful times, especially at the minute the team is so close, and it's everybody celebrates everybody else's success, and that's just a great feeling.
That's intriguing to me, actually. The way you describe that makes it sound like that's like a weekly process, which is kind of this regenerative cycle in action a bit. Does that seem right? Do you do that on a weekly basis? Like you kind of like, you have a goal for the week, put it out into the world, do it, yay, and then you reflect. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, good on you, Sam and crew. That's very. It seems like news to him. Maybe this is an Eleanor thing. Well, either way, good deal for you guys, right?
Definitely more the crew.
That's cool. But that's like a culture thing, I would say, right? That's cool. Okay. Sam, on your end, what do you got for your icebreaker?
Does it need to be work related?
No, fully God, no. Of course not.
Okay. No, at the minute I'm starting to enjoy it's showing my age now, but I'm starting to enjoy just like food and drinks out with friends, just like good conversation. Before it used to be something a little harder, a bit mental, but now I can like relax over just good food. Never really appreciated it before, but that's becoming my favorite part of the week now. Trying to break the cycle.
You may need to teach me, because food has been a really big struggle for me as of late. It's just an obligation. It's time. It's just more energy spent to try to deal with it. With like we have kids to feed, and we have it's just like, and I always feel like I'm having to sacrifice something, and often I just make food easy. Not that I'm necessarily eating unhealthy, but it just I just don't care that much about it, and so I'm probably not getting as much out of it. And I know, Paul, you love food, and it's a big part of your process, right? Is cooking. I used to be that way. I lost it, so I'm bummed. So I'm happy for you, because I know when that's in flow and that feels right, that's really nice, because it should. It's nourishing. It's like our life, right? Social too, doing it socially. Love that. Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's get into this regenerative week, shall we? So why cycle? So I talked about this with the daily cycle, but I'm going to just repeat it, because the why of this remains consistent, whether we're trying to do it on a daily basis or a weekly basis, monthly, quarterly, yearly, whatever. We'll go to that later on in our series, of course. But why cycle? Because cultivating quality over quantity is really, really important. And so, like, right, Sam, quality food feels a lot better than what I'm doing, which is just quick and easy and, whatever. Eat it and be done and move on. No good. It allows us to curate a sustainable flow state as we go through our weeks. And we'll come back to that one as we get to the end of my opening here. And it also fits in with this idea of a natural pattern, not an artificial one. This work week of Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or whatever, it's just a made up thing. It's totally made up. It's like, why, right? As we look at the way, nature works, right? Nature has like a get up, a do work, a go to sleep or whatever, right? But the problem with what we've ended up in our society now is that we make it very easy to justify working more and sacrificing in other areas, right? And sometimes that means we're not like getting up with the sun and going down with the sun. We're doing other things that we shouldn't be doing. And I know as of late, for me, I've realized that I'm starting to, I think, suffer from a certain sort of like dopamine addiction or nervous system overload, because I just work on a computer all the time, and it's starting to affect me in ways like sleep, for example. And so we live in kind of an artificial world with our technology, and it's not great. So I've been working at ways to work virtually in a way that feels healthier and not more degenerative. I'll get into that with my warm up of the week. So the way this is organized is I have Monday through Thursday is set up in this regenerative cycle. So my warm up phase is on Monday, which is my creativity day. kind of a deep work sort of day. So things that I do on Mondays is I try to work out, as you see, in nature. So like yesterday, for example, I actually worked on a kayak out on the lake, and it was amazing. And yes, holy privilege to be able to do that. But there are ways, right? There are ways for us to just go out and work outside, with our feet on the ground, or whatever it may be. I will sometimes like go to like into like a tree setting and just like work by a tree, right? Still working, still focused, still doing good stuff, but I'm outside. I also tend to look at this day as a day to do like writing work, design work, drawing, creating, reading even, right? Like we all say we don't have enough time to read. Like reading can be work, right? If we're reading about things that are making us better. Things I don't do on Mondays for the most part is I don't text, I don't do email, I don't do social media, and I don't just kind of go, 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 right? I take it slow. I warm up as I get into the week. We don't have to just sprint into everything right away. All right, swim. So my swim day gets into this idea of growth gardening. I become sales fox, and I focus on things that are meant to kind of grow our work, right? So this is where I do get into texting, emailing, social media, sharing offers and things that we're working on that can create value for others. And while I do meetings on Tuesdays, I don't overschedule meetings because meetings can sometimes just be like spinning our wheels. And if I do them, they should be ones that are like highly valuable or have big opportunity and they're realistic to build a relationship, move to a next step with a potential partner, whatever it may be. Sprint season. Oh boy, this day. Yeah, this is a big day. This is where I tend to jam my meetings in. But I do not schedule back to back meetings. And I know we've all struggled with that at times. And the reason why I don't is because there are action items that need to come from getting together with people, especially when you have team meetings and things. So I give myself space to do those action items as I go. I have found this, even though Wednesday's kind of a like exhaustive day. I mean, it is sprint day. Sprinting is kind of tiring. I have found this so helpful for other parts of my week because I tried to jam in as much of the like social element of my work into this day so that I have time for actual work, right? We all kind of complain because we have too many meetings and too many things we're committed to. I find jamming it into a day with then like Tuesday and Thursday available if I need to. But the thing I do not do meetings on Mondays and I do not do meetings on Fridays, which I'll talk about in a second. Thursday is what I call integrator glue or organizational work. So this is where I focus on like task management, catching up on things that haven't been done. But even just like doing administrative and organizational work, right? So I have my own business. This is where I do some of the businessy stuff, like looking at financial reports and catching up on just insurance stuff or whatever, all that crazy stuff that comes in. Something not to do on a day like this is don't try to justify why you can't do this work, because then you're going to come around the next week and you're going to be a disorganized mess and you're going to be frustrated. At least that's how it works for me anyway. And then I also have in here, don't be too OCD about it all, because I think when we try to over-organize ourselves, we just end up getting messier. And Ella is sitting in here as the one who does a lot of Viridescence organizational work, and she's like, yep, she understands. So this is Thursday. So with Fridays on the week, I leave Fridays open. For me in particular, I have my daughter home with me, so I don't consider it to be like a full work day, but I do some stuff. But I also think that, there's a lot of the big movement around like working 4 days a week, right, and having Fridays off. I don't know that you have to have Friday off, but I don't think it should be considered like a full, go sort of work day. So that's why I don't do meetings on Fridays typically either, unless I just absolutely have to for whatever reason. So that's a little bit about how my cycle goes. The weekend's the weekend, just do whatever, right? Go for it, enjoy it, don't over prescribe it too much. But I found 4 days of the week to have each one kind of a focus theme has been really, really healthy for me and has actually increased my productivity. One thing I also do is I have a task list for each one of these days. And if a task pops into my head on a Tuesday and it's a day I'm supposed to be selling, but it's like a, some sort of thing attached to organization, or it's a creative project that I'd really like to get distracted by, I put it on Monday's task list and I wait. I wait until I get to Monday, and then that's the thing that I work on that day, or one of the things that I do that day. That also has been really helpful to keeping me focused because we are doing this task switching thing, right? Does anybody else experience that where you get blown between multiple things and you're back and forth a bit? Oh my God, it was making me crazy, and this task list thing helped a ton. So, all right, before we go forward into the breakout, any questions, comments, thoughts before we get into discussion and you share some of your opportunities, challenges? Okay, we're going. All right, so I'm going to skip this one for now. We'll come back to that in the next session, I think, or the one after that. Building our weekly regenerative cycle. So I am curious what this idea of a warm-up, swim, sprint, and cool down feels like for your week, right? Now, yours may look totally different than mine. Yours, maybe Mondays have to be a sprint for whatever reason, right? Maybe you flip this around and adjust it. But I'm kind of curious what this feels like. And you can answer this question however you would like to. It can be kind of day by day, each having a theme. I know this is going to be a very different concept for some of you probably, but I'm curious. I see Paul smiling, so I'm curious what Paul is cooking there.
So I feel like now that I'm not working every day, that each day actually has each of these four components to it,
right?
To some degree. And my warm up is to get up in the morning, and some days it's to work out. But it usually involves some kind of brain work, if you will. I love doing the New York Times spelling bee, for example, and I love to get to genius or get all the words like within an hour at the maximum. And and then I go into things I might have to do from a kind of work perspective, whether it be board work for either the two boards that I'm on, or just stuff. And then I have my tasks around the house because I'm at home now and is working. I do laundry, I cook, I go shopping, I do those kinds of things. So my tasks are kind of more homebound kinds of tasks, if you will. And then my cool down is, kind of just winding down the day and finding time to relax. Maybe I'll do a French lesson, or just, something else to just relax before Karen gets home, because then we engage in, time together in the evening. So it feels like each day for me has some elements of each of the cycles that you've talked about.
And I actually love that you did that because 2 weeks ago we did the daily cycle, right? And you weren't here for that, right? So the fact that you just took it naturally and went to the daily is kind of the whole point, right? Is these are things that ideally we can practice on a daily to weekly and onward, sort of basis, right? And it kind of scales up and out as we go. Okay, so let's go to
your point.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say to your point. I do have days where I have meetings occasionally, and to your point, I try to never have them be back to back. I always want a buffer in between, either to reflect on what the previous meeting was, and if there's an action item or something that needs to be dealt with, try to do it right then and there. So I appreciate that point about creating time in between tasks and meetings.
Yeah, or even days, right, or whatever, right? Just giving yourself space. So let's go to the other end of the spectrum, because I know, Sam, Eleanor, right? You guys work busy, right? And tend to be more of a full work week. So what does this feel like to you? Do you feel like you have some element of this? I mean, Eleanor kind of spoke to it a little bit, like, setting a goal, working towards getting that out there, and then, that's like the achievement of the week, and then you can kind of reflect and then do it again the next week. But I'm curious from you or Sam, either one of you, what this feels like, if you feel like you're able to truly practice this, or if it's like almost seems impossible, because I'm curious about that too.
Yeah, I can jump in. I think the four things are quite difficult to do. Like I've lost the image, but I think you were saying like something good for the mind at the beginning, those sorts of things. are not baked into the day to day. Eleanor may have personal practices, but we don't have enough of that sort of thing that goes on.
Within like the Wonder work
Within
day,
like a
right?
the Wonder work day, yeah. But like personally, I think it's just very difficult to get into that flow. I think you need to be really intentional. How you manage all those pressures and still get things done. I'd love to learn from someone who can do that. I certainly don't do that.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of flexibility and freedom, and this has taken me a while to do. And I will say, even once you get it kind of humming, all it takes is like a couple things to stack up on top, and you lose that core a bit. But then, lo and behold, I start to work towards the like feeling of burnout, and that happens, right? And so, like, I know how important this is, and that it's actually kind of, it might even be like a revolutionary way to work a bit, but it's hard. It's hard when there's a lot of external pressures pushing in. But it's why I love like Paul sharing what it's like to be able to do this because he's retired. But of course, here in the Veraverse, would be like, well, why the hell can't we do this like while we're working too, right? Why do we have to be go 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 go, right? Does it all just come down to money and the need to make money? Maybe so, maybe. But I think we can do better than that, personally. But it's hard.
Yeah. I think from my observations as well, I think you're dead right about the money side of it. From some of the worlds I walk in, they don't have a way of valuing anything other than money. Like we don't, obviously personally, I do want the culture of like happiness and whatever, but in terms of doesn't pay the bills, doesn't pay a mortgage, I think it's one of the biggest dilemmas of the modern world right now. These things that we want don't sustain us. Well, not if you're chasing the kind of lifestyle that I see a lot in, especially from like my side in the investment world. These millionaires, they haven't got any kind of brain capacity for it.
Yeah, right.
Just want more
That's
money.
right. Yeah. Well, interesting thing here. This is a bigger bigger kind of philosophy around this, but I actually think you and I have talked about this, Sam, now that I think about it. So it makes sense to bring it up again. So I read a book, I think it was in 2020 during lockdown. It's called This Could Be Our Future by Yancey Strickler, who is a co-founder of Kickstarter. And he talked about how we need to move away or move beyond, I suppose, the idea of GDP as a way to measure the health of our economic system, right? And there's another book that I got more context on from this. It's called Less is More by Jason Hickel, who's an anthropologist. And he talked about the original development of the GDP framework. The guy who created it told world leaders, do not use this as the sole measurement of the economy. It's missing social and environmental. The guy that created it literally said, like, it's not done yet, right? Let's keep going. And I don't know how or why, but I guess I probably do. Basically, world leaders are like, great, GDP, and off we went, and capitalism started turning and rolling, right? And so that was a huge mistake for so many reasons. And so this idea of moving, as Yancey Strickler would say, moving from GDP to GDV, which is gross domestic value. And value has then multiple facets to it, right? It has monetary value, sure, but also like happiness values and health values and planetary regeneration and all the things. But how do we do it, right? I mean, how does that actually happen? Can we actually unwind this machine? And at this point, I have no freaking idea. But I do know on an individual level, we can try to take small steps, which is the whole point of this small cycle that we have. Okay. Eleanor, Sabrina, what do you see? What do you feel? What in here works for you or doesn't work for you? There's lessons in both for all of us.
I definitely need to work on this. I've just started, based on the session 2 weeks ago, started trying to incorporate this on like how to have all these 4 elements in my daily life. I never thought about making it for the whole week. So I think it's interesting, and I think it would be good because as someone who has suffered from burnout in the past, I always look to make sure that I'm not heading in that direction, and I want to make sure I'm being my most productive self. And I know that to do that, I need to make sure I'm pacing myself, not rush, not sprinting all the time. I think I definitely do. I feel like I go back and forth between sprinting during the week and then cooling down when it's like Thursday, Friday. But I love this, and I'd love to incorporate it into the week. But yeah, I know it can be difficult.
And
Yeah.
when you go from like, yeah, kind of like sprinting to cool down, I mean, you can kind of see that's how this framework is designed a little bit. There's part of me that likes the idea of like warm up, swim, sprint, swim, cool down, right? Because like sprint to cool down's a little harsh. Does that feel accurate to the way like it's like you kind of go hard and then you're like, okay, I'm done, right? But like, what kind of things do you do to cool down? Like, I know for me, I might like, eat too much or watch too much TV or, I don't know, whatever, right? Stress binging sort of things, right? Does that resonate too? Like feels like it's too quick to the cool down almost or something, a little bit imbalanced?
100%. And I will only cool down because I feel my body saying, I can't sprint anymore. I
Because
need
you
to stop.
have no choice. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Eleanor, what are you thinking?
I love a plan. So
Yeah,
I'll,
yeah, you do. I'm learning this
yeah.
about you. Yeah. Look how excited she gets. I love it.
It's
Yeah.
irrational, really. But
Ah,
I'll start the week with okay, these are the big things that I need to achieve, and then work backwards from it. Like, how can I get that done? What do I need to do? And I'll try and like pace it throughout the week, so I don't just dump all of it on one day, so that I overwhelm myself. And that I tend to do that in all aspects of life, be it work or personal. My other half, although he's remarkably organised at work, he couldn't organise anything outside of work. and so it if he doesn't have anything to do, he struggles. So then it's almost like looking after a child sometimes, bless him. But it's trying to find him things to do as well, and keep him occupied, and what can we do together, and what can we do where we involve the dogs, so we're getting outside, and just lots of plans all of the time. And I've come to learn, if I don't have a plan, I genuinely struggle with anything. I feel like I'm not being productive, like I'm not doing anything, like I should be doing something. And I'll just find myself doing all sorts of really random things around the house that aren't actually helping anything at all. But because I
it's
don't
like
know
staying
what to
busy.
do with myself,
Mm.
yeah. So yes, a plan. Love a plan.
And does a plan ever feel like a burden, or no? It's always feels like the right thing to be doing for you.
I think because I've done it for so long, it feels like the thing to do. I think I need to learn how to not have a plan, because I find that disconcerting sometimes.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just the standard practice in my head of, okay, let's put a plan together, let's get it done.
Sure. So this regenerative cycle might be intriguing for you, as maybe build in like a day a week where there's just no plan. It's just spontaneous, right? I know one thing my wife and I experimented with, we never really got to it very well, but it was like a choose your adventure jar kind of thing, or like choose, whatever. And you like write a bunch of things on a piece of paper, drop it in a jar. So on that day, at least you know what's in there, but you get to
Yeah.
pick it and then just go for it, right? Whatever it is.
Yeah, we tried that because we moved recently. We're like, let's write down all the places where we could go and things to do. And then it was that we were picking it on the day that we were doing it. And some things required planning. I was like, well, if we do it on the Thursday, then that gives us Friday to like pre-plan, get things organized. And then my other half, Alex, was like, you've already ruined the spontaneity of it. And like, who needs to be spontaneous?
Paul, she would make a very good event planner here, for sure. All right. Well, we're coming to our time for the lightning strike portion of this, but something I want to share, because I know, like, Sam, I could feel it a bit, right? Like the intensity of your work weeks and how hard doing something like this can even, like, how would you do it, right? When the demands are so big. Well, I'm actually exploring the idea of taking on more work, maybe even like a full-time job, for a while. And I actually plan to bring this into my job interviews and bring this into the type of leadership that I would bring to a business. And they're going to need to be the right fit to consider these kinds of things, right? But as I do that, I will keep you updated, because I think it's possible, but it's hard to do when you have all the freedom in the world. It's just tough. Like our economy is a machine, right? It's a go go go. It just is. And so, can we really overcome that with this kind of stuff? I'm not sure, but I think it's worth a shot. And I know it has helped me in a lot of areas that have been very healthy. Prosperous or profit, maybe not as much. And that's the challenge, right? That's the balance I seek, for sure. Yeah. Just so you don't feel too bad being the one in the room navigating multi-million-dollar investors and all of this intensity as you try to change the world, because that is what you're trying to do, which is admirable as well. So on that note, I would say a quick presencing ritual and we flip over to our secret quest. Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good.
Sabrina, you're up.
Brilliant. So if everyone wants to close their eyes, you can turn off the cameras if you feel more comfortable. Just relax. Be aware of your breath. Breathe in and out. And we'll just stay like this for a minute. Brilliant. And when you're ready, take another deep breath in. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, take a big stretch, and open your eyes and come back.
So that was interesting this time for me, because I opened my eyes early and found a great deal of like presence and peace in seeing Eleanor, Paul, and Sam just sitting there completely still with their eyes closed. It's like nice, right? Especially given what we just talked about, right? That things can be intense and go, go, go. And to find 30 seconds of peace in a very fast-paced world is nice. It's nice for me to experience this stuff myself, but seeing other people find that peace that's the ultimate thing, right? That's what the viridescent thing is all about, I suppose. And so keep finding it, keep finding it. And of course, we're gonna have a little imagination playtime here in this this next half hour here. So let's have a little more of it. Break free a little bit more for a few minutes. So, Paul, my friend, over to you. And I don't know if I want to surprise you potentially because I don't think I texted you this. You won. Not that it's a competition, but this is now known as Imagination Playtime. So the card updated just for you. It has legs for sure, as you said in text about your work overseas, but also in our world. I doing it with Kirpa in the backcountry. We did like a 2-hour imagination playtime, and she was like, "Oh my God, Paul's a legend. This is amazing." So yeah, it was good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm sorry that I missed the last couple of weeks, but I was off on a regenerative program of my own, and lots of things came out of that. But yeah, so it feels like the world is a very dark place right now. So I want to do something kind of light today to bring us out of that darkness. So I'm just going to read a short poem, and then I'll give you a prompt, and we'll do our usual thing. Okay, let me just get to the poem here. Okay, this is a poem by a woman named Rebecca Elson, and it is called Let There Always Be Light. For this we go out dark nights, searching for the dimmest stars, for signs of unseen things to weigh us down, to stop the universe from rushing on and on into its own beyond, till it exhausts itself and lies down cold, its last star going out. Whatever they turn out to be, let there be swarms of them, enough for immortality, always a star where we can warm ourselves. Let there be enough to bring it back from its own edges, to bring us all so close we ignite the bright spark of resurrection. And with that, the prompt for this week is, I find myself at the end of a rainbow and I ... So let your imaginations go wild for the next few minutes and imagine yourself at the end of a rainbow. All right. How was that for everybody?
Nice tune. Or music.
Mm.
Anybody want to share what they either wrote or drew or whatever?
I like the present squirrel coming in to listen. That's fun.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it. I just let my imagination run wild, and I saw immediately celebration. I drew. I'm not a very good drawer, but I just allowed the inner child kind of not really much. You can see there, if anything, probably not.
I think
Um,
your background's blurred, so it's blurring the image, I think.
oh, okay. Maybe I'll try and add it on the chat maybe afterwards. But I drew basically like music, like love, and also the symbol for peace, and then just looked, no one in particular, but just like loads of like people around a table and celebrating and stuff like that, and having picnics and all that stuff. Yeah.
Nice. And was there a particular way in which a rainbow fit into what you were thinking about and drawing as you were imagining that image?
Um, well, I'm not gonna lie, the first image I thought was a leprechaun just because that's kind of what I've grown up with. But then I thought of like usually like the pot of gold. What was the pot of gold look like now? Like, yes, that would be great, but for me, whenever I thought of that pot of gold as like celebration, and I just thought of dancing, and that's what celebration looks like for me. You know, maybe I'm biased because last week was my birthday, so that could also be what's in my head. Also,
Ah,
so yeah.
Maybe
okay.
that's what lies at the end of the rainbow. It's the
That's right.
brightness is birthday. I like it. I was gonna say, thinking about the pot of gold thing, I think Sabrina, you were one of the ones that answered the question about like money, like what is money? However we asked it, I don't exactly remember, but it was freedom, right? Like a lot of us said freedom, or it could be freedom, um, which really resonates for me right now. Wow.
Mm.
Who's up next?
Okay. Anybody else?
I saw Sam nodding and excited. I saw it after when we came out of that. You were into it. Maybe it was just the tune, right? Or I don't know, but I'm curious where you went. Curiosity.
Um, yeah, no, I like listening to everyone else's parts of this because I think for me, yeah, my head probably does go to like the money side, the freedom side. Um, I think getting more nature into my life would be great. It's just finding the time for it. Um, yeah, it's an interesting period really at the moment. So I think mostly I imagine like waterfalls and things like that, just something maybe being alone and just things around me that are mostly nature driven. I think a lot of what I'm around at the moment is very manufactured. So something just organic would be cool. That's where that rainbow sends me.
Mhm.
But yeah, just love the tune, love that kind of music, vibes, and Sabrina talking about what you see. Peace, interesting. That's hard thing to come by at the minute. But yeah, uh, probably a few scrambled thoughts there, but definitely love the music.
Mhm.
Dig into that in any which way you
Yeah.
like. But
Oh, I think of one of your poems actually. I about like bathing in the forest,
Yeah.
alone, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody else feel like completely understood and at peace when you're in nature alone. Does that resonate for others? Paul, yeah, I see now, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, it's the only place I ever truly feel two things at one time, which, or well, maybe three, is like at peace, present, and understood when I'm out there. I can get some of those other pieces in various points out in the real world or whatever, but yeah.
That is the real world.
Isn't it?
Hmm.
And why the hell don't we spend more time there? I don't get it. I don't understand.
I'm happy to read what I wrote for this particular prompt, if anybody wants me to.
Yeah, I'd
I
love
think
to.
we would all love you. Yes, please.
I find myself at the end of a rainbow, and I'm with my great-granddaughter. She's dressed in her princess dress, and we are astride a unicorn. The rainbow is pure energy, the colors vibrating and inviting us to come aboard. We brought our unicorn and jump into the energy of the rainbow. We are floating, the energy field taking us higher and higher into the stars. We are in galaxies, in nebulas, and there is just this feeling of pure freedom. I'm wrapping my arms around my 4-year-old granddaughter and letting her guide us from one galaxy to the next. The colors are vibrating, and it feels like they are pulsing through our bodies. She is so excited to be on her unicorn and riding the waves of this rainbow through an endless universe.
It's pretty incredible. Yeah, it's quite a descriptive experience. Sounds like an amazing relationship as well. Cool. Sounds
Well,
awesome.
I was hoping that I was going to see her next week. She was going to originally come down with her mother to Lake Toba, where we're spending the week, but it ended up not working out. So now I'm going to have to figure out how to go up to Washington State to try and see them sometime soon, because I don't see them nearly often enough.
Mhm. Oh man, sorry to hear that. It's not. It's a real punch in the gut, isn't it, when something like that happens? Yeah, it sounded incredible.
All right. Anybody else?
I have something, but I want to give an opportunity at Eleanor. I don't know if you had something where the rainbow take you.
I went a bit geeky with it, and I kind of went off into two different places. I didn't see it as a rainbow as like your traditional rainbow, but you know, in the Marvel film Thor, the Bifrost thing that he uses, that looks like a rainbow, and I saw it in my head as like it's transporting me somewhere. And in my fictional journey that I took with it, I then thought of, you know, Studio Ghibli, and there's Howl's Moving Castle, and there's a scene where Sophie's in this like just luscious green field, like covered with like beautiful little flowers, and it's just she's just having just a moment of peace, and there's just calm, and she's just at one, and that'd be quite nice to be there. That'd be lovely. Then another place that I thought of was somewhere where I've been before, and I felt like this is where I'm meant to be. This just felt like I was. I went to Iceland a few years ago. And apologies for the dog. And my other half and I, we rented a car, and we just drove around the island, just getting lost basically. And it was just so much fun, because one moment you're driving on a road, and then the next moment that road has just genuinely turned like a gravel track, because that's just, there's so much of Iceland, and it's so sparsely populated. Why would they pay for like to tarmac that section of road? So it felt like you were really exploring somewhere. And there's black sand beaches, and just stood on that sand beach, and you can hear like the water, the crashing waves, the wind, the cold, and you're really feeling everything. And that was, yes, that was really like, you just came back to who you were, and you were living in that moment, and that was quite a nice place to be as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great description. And yes, I also drove around Iceland one time and came to a road that was so full of like ruts that it took us 2 hours to drive 2 miles. That was an amazing experience.
Sounds like the Utah desert, actually.
Yeah.
Mm.
Uh-huh. Or
Well,
any desert for that matter.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. The black sand beaches in Iceland are amazing. Has anybody
Yeah.
else gotten to see? So the three of us, I have. Sabrina, Sam, MCK, no? It is otherworldly, that place.
Yeah.
I was kind of privileged to go to New Zealand too, and while that's probably my favorite place I've ever been, um, Iceland is more unique. I third more. I don't know. It just feels wilder. I don't know. Yeah. Hmm.
Well,
I mean, New Zealand is too, but yeah. Go ahead, Paul.
especially because Iceland is essentially at some point cracking itself in two. There's a place in Iceland where it is literally splitting in half, and sometime
We swam there.
sometime eons from now, there will be two Icelands.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What is that? It runs through like Thingvellir National Park there. Yeah.
It's just on one gigantic like volcano chain. There's a peninsula at the moment where there's a giant fissure, and it's moving apart. That peninsula of the island is just breaking off, and it's just so wild, and there's nothing. I haven't been anywhere like it before, and it's just, I desperately want to go back because it's so like raw, and it is just you're nothing
raw.
to this island.
It's raw. It's primal. It's like really, yeah, just
Yeah.
prime.
Wow. Paul, I just want to say thank you for what it is that you bring through this. It's more powerful than just the words that we share here, I think. It's more needed than what we all probably get to practice. And it's also undervalued, at the same time. It's given me something that I don't know if I can unwind it in 3 or 4 minutes. So I'm tempted to hold and ponder a bit on my end. But I drew my like life's pursuit at the end of my rainbow. It's a wolf with a big beard, a beard of wisdom, and God damn it, I cannot figure it out. I can't figure out how to get to where it is I'm trying to get to. But maybe I'm not supposed to, not yet. So I think that's all I'll share for now. And maybe I'll be prepared to share in a future session, because thank you for whatever it is that you're helping me see, which is powerful. Thank you.
I'm glad this is resonating, and that it feels like I think I texted you, Chance, or I wrote you that I actually did this with some people on the program that I was on in Greece, and it resonated with them as well. So it's got legs.
And it's just so funny, right? Because it's so simple, it's so obvious, and yet like these are things that like I mean Sam kind of said it earlier a little bit, right? Like it's like we'll do some of these like more regenerative things like personally, or at least we would like to, or we potentially could, right? But like in the working world and things like this kind of stuff, does it have a place, right? And it's like why shouldn't it? Why wouldn't it have a place? For us to have more fun together. Like why is everything so scripted, prescripted? And I think some of what I'm thinking about is this idea of purpose. And we've talked about this in this series too. I think it was this series, maybe it was the last one. I don't know. They're all flowing together as they should. But I think it was you, Paul, somehow. Does everything have to have an outcome? Right. And I know like, no, actually, no, it was you, Sam. It was you that brought that up first, right? Like we were kind of like this idea of like playing in the face of the machine, right, and the pressures of all of this stuff. And then we got into that discussion about, does everything have to have an outcome? And of course, I drew my outcome at the end of my rainbow. So I guess maybe it does. I don't know. But maybe that's part of the problem. Part of my problem, part of everybody's problem, I don't know, is that we don't just live. And we kind of got into that a little bit last week with Edward, who said some amazing things about like the earth is not here for us to use. It's here for us to like be with, be there, kind of, right? And we're always pursuing something or consuming something, or I don't know. Damn it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. There was something that came up in one of the salon sessions, and that idea of like, can we just stand on the land and be on the land as an image, which I found interesting and resonated with a lot of what we've been talking about in this group.
So I'll leave you with a funny thing, or an interesting thing, I guess. I got a text from Jose, who is the symbiotic, and he hasn't gotten to join these sessions yet, but he just left his job and is living a little bit more freelance and free, and so hopefully will be coming and hanging out with us a little bit more. But he just texted me out of the blue a couple months ago, and he's like really in the thick of the machine world and the over obligations, and he goes, can we just like buy a plot of land somewhere in Montana and just like live in the Veraverse every day? And I was like, God, I hope so. I hope so. And we would need money to do that. God damn it. So with that weird levity, huge thank you to you, Paul, and I can't wait to tell you about what I'm up to and what, you know, we're headed, I guess. I don't know. MCK, so glad to have you just jump in and say hey with the listening ears and such. And I guess we'll see you guys next week. And we may do an internal. Oh yeah, MCK, what you got? Yeah.
I'll share my poem real quick. I think I can do it in a minute or less.
Oh, you've been working. Okay, you've been working in the background. Nice. Okay,
Yeah,
do it. Perfect. This is the best place to end. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So the end of a rainbow is actually a deep bow to the end and to the beginning, because they're often one and the same. Graduation and commencement, finish and a fresh start. There's an energy that takes us home, and yet what catalyzes the next adventure? What does the end of your rainbow look like?